The cold emptiness of space was filled with the silent movement of warships. The Imperial fleet stretched as far as the eye could see. A wall of steel and fire drifting toward a small blue planet. Their mission was simple: invade, Earth, break its people, and claim it for the Empire. The alien admiral, a tall figure with scales the color of rust, stood on the bridge of the lead battleship. His golden eyes glowed with pride as he looked at the tactical display. 5,000 warships, each armed with weapons that had destroyed dozens of worlds before. The Empire had conquered planets for centuries, and none had ever stopped them. The Admiral believed Earth would be no different, far behind him, on the Imperial capital world. The Emperor sat in his throne room. A crowd of nobles and officers watched as he waved his hand, giving the final order to conquer. He spoke with confidence, his voice loud in the hall. By nightfall, on their world, "They will bow to me," he declared. The nobles cheered, the sound echoing through the massive chamber. No one dared to question him, though a few remembered old legends, stories about humans that the Empire had buried long ago. Legends that called them Deathworlders, dangerous even without ships. But the Emperor laughed at such tales, leaving them nothing but myths told to scare children. As the fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system, Earth's space stations detected them. Massive signals poured into the planet's defense. Network satellites turned their sensors toward the black shapes cutting through the void. In control rooms deep underground, human commanders studied the readings with calm expressions. This was not a surprise. They had been waiting for this day. A coded message went out across secure channels. It was short, only 2 words. It's time. On the surface of Earth, life seemed to continue as normal. Children played in parks. Cars moved through busy streets, and the skies were clear. But in hidden places, under mountains, beneath oceans, and in vast caverns, the truth was different. Colossal hangars lit up as machines came to life, engines that had been silent for years began to hum. Weapons that no one outside the highest ranks even knew existed were powered on. The air inside these bases felt heavy with the energy of what was coming. The Imperial fleet closed the distance quickly. From Earth's surface, the first sign of their arrival was a shadow. It began as a faint dark patch in the sky, but within minutes it spread until it seemed the daylight itself was being eaten away. People stopped what they were doing and looked up, shielding their eyes. Some gasped in fear. Others whispered prayers above them. The alien ships blotted out the sun, forming a jagged wall of darkness. The largest battleships were so big they could hold entire cities inside. On the bridge of his flagship, the Admiral smiled. He saw no movement from Earth's defenses, no fleet rising to meet him. To him, this was proof that humans were weak, unprepared, and easy prey. "Arm the weapons," he ordered, his voice steady but filled with hunger. Energy crackled along the sides of the massive cannons as they prepared to fire. Inside his mind, the victory was already complete. This was just another step in the Empire's endless march across the stars. But in the command room beneath the Rocky Mountains, a different scene unfolded. Human officers stood around a large holographic display, watching the alien fleet take position. No one shouted, no one panicked. The commander, an older man with silver hair and sharp eyes, simply gave a slow nod. "All units, stand by," he said, his voice calm as if he were ordering morning coffee. In the far corners of the room, technicians worked at silent speed, unlocking systems sealed since the early days of space exploration. Above ground, no civilian could see it, but high above the planet's atmosphere, hidden satellites began to move. They were not normal satellites. Each one was armed with technology the galaxy had never seen. As the last sunlight vanished behind the dark mass of alien ships, a strange tension settled over the world. It was the quiet before a storm. The Imperial Admiral's voice cut through the bridge. Prepare to fire on my mark. Every alien gunner locked their sights on major cities: New York, Beijing, Moscow, Sydney. The plan was to break the humans in one blow, to destroy their previces, destroy their spirit before they could even think of fighting back. The countdown began in the Admiral's mind. 3, 2, 1. In that moment, deep within the heart of Earth, something stirred. Vast engines rotated. Hidden cannons shifted into firing position across the planet. Human warships, black, angular, and silent, began to emerge from their hidden bays. They did not rush, they did not fire first. They simply took their places, waiting. As the alien fleet readied its first strike, the humans were already prepared for something far more decisive. The sky was black, but Earth was not afraid. And in the space between the stars, the first whispers of humanity's answer were about to be heard on the Imperial homeworld. The grand palace of the Emperor stood like a mountain of silver and stone. Its towers pierced the clouds, and its walls glittered under the pale light of 3 suns. Inside the throne room, the Emperor sat on a seat carved from a single black crystal. Around him stood the High Council, warriors, governors, and fleet admirals, all watching the battlefield from the approaching Earth. The fleet was a black ribbon on the star map, moving with unstoppable precision to the Emperor. It was the image of victory. He leaned back, claws tapping on the armrest, a slow smile forming. By the time the humans see our banners in their sky, they will already belong to me, he said. The words carried across the throne room, and the council responded with cheers. Some thumped their armored chests, others shouted in praise. It was the same as every conquest before the Emperor spoke. And worlds fell, but at the far end of the chamber. One old strategist did not join in the celebration. His skin was pale, his eyes like faded stars, and his voice, when it came, was slow. My Emperor. The humans are not like the others. The Emperor's smile thinned. Explain, he ordered, leaning forward slightly. The strategist bowed low before speaking. There are stories. Old records from the first expansion age, he said. They speak of a planet called Earth, a place where everything is dangerous, where the creatures themselves are born fighters, where the gravity is higher, the storms stronger, and the people endure things no one else can. Some council members shifted uncomfortably, but the Emperor gave a short laugh. Legends and ghost tales. Nothing more, he said. We have crushed warlords who claimed to be gods, burned fleets that blotted out stars, and yet you ask me to fear primitives. The strategist opened his mouth to answer, but the Emperor waved a dismissive claw. Enough, he said. The humans will fall before they know they are at war. He rose from the throne, his long cape dragging across the polished floor. Their ships are weak, their weapons old. The Empire's victory is certain. The council cheered again, louder this time, drowning out the strategist's warning. Back aboard the lead battleship in the fleet, the alien admiral received the Emperor's final instructions. No diplomacy, no demands. No surrender offers, only annihilation. The admiral's heart swelled with pride. Certain that by the next rotation he would stand before the Emperor with Earth's flag at his feet, he broadcast the order to the entire fleet. All ships prepare for planetary bombardment. Thousands of gunners took position, their hands resting on weapon controls. Energy cores began to hum with lethal power. To them, the humans were already defeated. They simply did not know it yet. Far below, in the hidden command centers of Earth, the atmosphere was nothing like the noise and celebration of the Imperial throne room. There was no cheering, no boasting, only silence and focus. Men and women in uniform moved quickly, but calmly, eyes locked on the incoming data streams. The commander in charge watched the alien fleet's weapons charge. Patience, he said quietly, as though speaking to the planet itself. We only get one first strike, in orbit. The alien fleet completed its attack formation. The admiral gave the signal. Weapons locked on to Earth's largest cities, targeting millions of lives at once, in the control pits of each warship. Alien officers grinned. They had done this hundreds of times. Wipe out the heart of a world, and its body collapses. It was a perfect plan, a perfect victory in the making. But perfection was a word the humans had never trusted. High above the dark side of the moon, something shifted. It was faint. Almost invisible, the black surface of a massive human warship moving silently into position. Its design was nothing. Like the sleek curves of alien vessels, this one looked like a fortress made of jagged steel. Behind it, more shapes emerged from the shadows. 1, 2, 10, 20. And still they kept appearing. They did not approach the alien fleet yet. They simply waited. Engines quiet, weapons cold, watching, calculating, back on the Imperial capital. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne as the first bombardment. Countdown appeared on the display. He could almost taste the victory. Soon, he murmured. Soon the humans will know who rules this galaxy. In his mind, the war was already over. He imagined the images of burning cities, the cries of surrender. The kneeling leaders of Earth offering him their world. His arrogance was so complete that he did not notice the faint flicker of static on the transmission, a sign that something was interfering with the fleet's systems. On Earth, the human commander received the signal he was waiting for. His second-in-command looked at him and gave a single nod. "All units in position," she said. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Hold until they fire," he ordered. It was a strange thing to say in the face of annihilation, but on this day, it was not Earth that should have been afraid. In the silent void between worlds, two forces faced each other, one overflowing with confidence and centuries of conquest, the other quiet, patient, and holding a weapon the galaxy had never seen. The Emperor believed this battle was already his. But the truth was about to tear that belief apart in mere moments. The countdown on the Imperial flagship reached 0. The Admiral's voice was sharp and clear. Fire, at once. The blackness of space lit up with blinding light. Thousands of energy beams, plasma bolts, and hypermissiles screamed toward Earth. The weapons moved faster than thought, streaking through the void like angry comets in the control pits of the alien ships. Crews cheered as they watched the destructive wave close in on its target. To them, there was no way the humans could survive this. It was the beginning of the end for Earth, but something strange happened before the first shot could touch the atmosphere. A shimmer rippled across the planet. It was faint at first, like heat rising from sand. But then it grew brighter. A sphere of light bloomed around Earth. So vast, it swallowed the incoming barrage, energy blasts that had burned continents on. Other worlds simply vanished when they touched it. The alien crews froze, their cheers turning into silence. It was a shield, a planetary shield, and one far stronger than anything in the Imperial database. The Admiral's brow furrowed. "Impossible," he muttered. The Empire had studied Earth for years, believing it had no advanced planetary defense. Yet here was proof that humans had been hiding something all along. Inside the Emperor's throne room, the Council erupted into confusion. How did they? One noble started, only to be cut off by the Emperor's raised claw. His golden eyes narrowed. "They cannot hold it for long. Press the attack," he ordered. He still believed victory was certain. The Admiral nodded and ordered the fleet to fire again. This time, the weapons blazed hotter, more powerful than before. The second wave slammed into the shimmering barrier. For a moment, it wavered, but then it dropped entirely. The alien crews cheered once more, convinced the humans had exhausted their defense. Now their firepower would reach the cities. Except it didn't. From the far side of the moon, massive shapes emerged. Human warships, black and angular, slid into view as if they had been there all along. They moved without the bright engine trails common to alien ships. Instead, they glided. Silently, their hulls absorbing the light around them. The lead human ship turned its prow toward the nearest alien battleship. Its weapons were unlike anything the Imperial sensors could identify. Strange spires and arrays that hummed with all energy that bent space itself. The first human volley was almost gentle in sound. There was no deafening blast. No fiery explosion. Just a beam of pure white light that cut through the void and touched the alien battleship. In the blink of an eye, the ship was gone. Not destroyed in fire, not broken apart, simply erased from existence. Alien crews stared at their screens, unable to process what they had seen. The Admiral's voice roared across the comms, evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. More beams lanced out from the human ships. Each one found its target with perfect precision. Gigantic Imperial cruisers, the pride of the fleet. Vanished one after another. There were no wrecks, no debris, no survivors. Only empty space where ships had been seconds before. The Emperor's eyes widened as he watched the feed. For the first time in his reign, a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. What? What is this technology? He whispered. On Earth, the hidden command centers erupted in activity. The human commander stood tall, eyes fixed on the holographic display of the battle. Target their command ships, he ordered. The human fleet obeyed without hesitation. One by one, the Imperial fleet's coordination began to break. Without their flagships, smaller ships drifted into chaos, firing wildly or retreating. Some tried to escape into hyperspace, but their jump drives failed. Something perhaps the humans' unknown tech had locked the entire battle zone. The Admiral, his ship shaking from near misses, realized they were facing an enemy beyond anything the Empire had prepared for. These aren't primitives, he said through clenched teeth. They've been hiding their true strength. Still, pride would not let him surrender. He ordered all remaining ships to focus fire on the largest human warship. Dozens of beams and missiles slammed into it. Yet when the smoke cleared, the ship remained untouched. Its black hull gleamed under the distant sun, as if mocking the attempt. Then the human flagship spoke. A deep, calm voice came over every Imperial channel. You have fired on our home, you will not fire again. It was not a threat shouted in rage, but a statement of fact. The Admiral felt a chill run through his scaled skin. Moments later, every human warship fired at once. The void lit up with the brilliance of 1,000 suns. When it faded, half the Imperial fleet was simply gone. The survivors were frozen in disbelief. They had never seen such speed, such precision, such finality. In the Emperor's palace, the throne room was silent. The cheers had died. The confidence had cracked, yet the Emperor still leaned forward, unwilling to admit defeat. They've only wounded us. He lied to himself, but deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The humans had just begun. The void between Earth and the Imperial fleet burned with fading light from the last exchange. Half of the alien armada was gone. Erased so quickly, it was as if it had never existed. The survivors floated in scattered formations, their sensors filled with static. Their comms clogged with desperate voices. Yet in the center of the chaos, the human fleet moved with cold precision. Their black, angular warships slid through space like predators circling wounded prey. Every movement was controlled, every formation perfect. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, not a single hull breached. In the human command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the main screen displayed the battle in real time. Officers moved with calm efficiency, eyes locked on glowing tactical maps. The commander stood with his hands behind his back, his gaze fixed on the largest remaining alien ships. Select priority targets, he said, in a voice that carried quiet authority. Command ships first, weapons platforms second. Leave the runners for later. Around him, my hum of machinery and the soft tapping of keyboards were the only Sounds, there was no shouting, no panic, only focus, in orbit. The human flagship turned slowly toward the next target. Its weapons arrays began to glow, but unlike the alien cannons, there was no heat, no shaking decks. The power gathered. Silently. Drawn from sources the galaxy did not understand. On Imperial sensors, the readings made no sense. The energy spikes bent the graphs. As if they were pulling numbers from another reality. The admiral on the alien flagship shouted for his ships to scatter, but the human beam fired before they could move. The light swept across the alien formation like a scythe through tall grass. 8 more capital ships vanished without a trace. Aboard the alien ships that survived, crews were breaking, some officers screamed orders, others froze, unable to comprehend what they were facing. One captain begged over the comms, "Request to retreat, Admiral. We cannot fight this." But the Imperial Code of Honor bound them. Retreat without orders was punishable by death. The Admiral, jaw tight, tried to rally them. "Focus all fire on one ship. Maybe we can break their line," he barked. But when dozens of alien ships fired at the nearest human destroyer, the results were the same. The blasts hit. But the human shields rippled once and then held steady. There was not even a scorch mark on the hull. The human commander watched the enemy's futile attempt and gave a slow nod. "They're still thinking like conquerors," he said quietly to his second-in-command. "They believe strength is only in numbers and firepower." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing. "They don't understand that war is about control, and we control this fight in space." The human fleet began a maneuver that no Imperial captain had ever seen. The ships vanished from their positions, reappearing instantly on the other side of the enemy formation. No hyperspace jump, no detectable warp, just instant relocation. Before the aliens could even turn their guns, the humans fired again. Beams of bending light struck ship after ship. Each target disappeared into nothingness, leaving no wreckage. No bodies, only silence. The Emperor's throne room was filled with the flicker of battle feeds. His claws gripped the arms of his seat hard enough to leave deep scratches around him. The High Council sat in stunned quiet. No one dared speak. The word that was on all their minds, defeat. The Emperor broke the silence with a growl. "They are not gods. They are not invincible. They must have limits," he insisted. But deep inside, he felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. Back in orbit, the human flagship sent out a new transmission. It was broadcast on every Imperial frequency. Every ship, every channel, the voice was calm, even polite, but carried an unshakable weight. "You have fired on our home," the voice said. "Your weapons will not touch it again." There was no threat, no anger, only certainty. It was the kind of certainty that made even the bravest soldiers hesitate. On the alien flagship, the Admiral's hands trembled. Every tactical readout told the same story. The humans knew their every move before it happened. Sensors showed that escape routes were being cut off one by one. The humans were not just attacking, they were trapping already. Dozens of alien ships found their hyperspace drives locked, their navigation systems unresponsive. It was as if invisible walls had been placed around them. Panic began to spread like fire through dry grass. Meanwhile, the human fleet's formation tightened. They moved in unison, ships angling for the final strike. Some targeted engines, disabling ships rather than destroying them. Others erased threats outright, ensuring no counterattack could form. The commander in the Rocky Mountains gave his last order for the phase. End the firing lines. Time for precision strikes in seconds. The battlefield changed from open engagement to surgical elimination. Every beam of light hit exactly where it was meant to. Every alien ship that remained felt the weight of inevitability pressing down on them. By the time the humans ceased fire, The Imperial fleet was no longer a fleet. It was a scattering of broken survivors, drifting without formation, without hope. The humans did not chase those that ran. Not yet. They simply held their positions. Black ships gleaming in the cold light of the distant sun to the galaxy. This was the moment the Empire's myth of invincibility began to die. And to the humans, it was only the beginning. The Imperial flagship was a storm of noise and flashing warnings. Red lights bathed the bridge in a constant pulse. Alarms screamed. In every corner, the Admiral's voice cut through the chaos. Signal the Emperor, we request permission to use the Doomsday weapons. There was hesitation among the crew. The Doomsday weapons were not ordinary cannons. They were forbidden for most wars, designed to destroy entire planets. Even the Empire feared them, but desperation had burned away caution far across the galaxy in the Crystal Throne Room. The Emperor stood as the request reached him. His golden eyes glared at the holographic feed. The once mighty fleet was now a graveyard of drifting wrecks and missing ships. The humans were dismantling his armada with terrifying precision. For the first time in his reign, he felt his claws curl into the throne, not from pride, but from fear. He knew his reputation could not survive this defeat. He also knew the humans had to be broken, whatever the cost. Authorize it. The Emperor growled. The council stirred in shock. Several voices protesting at once. One elder shouted, "My Emperor, if you unleash those weapons near Earth..." The blast could silence. The Emperor snapped, his voice echoing through the chamber. "They think themselves untouchable. Let them see our true power." The order was sent in a single, untraceable signal to the surviving superships, hidden at the rear of the Imperial formation from the dark edge of the battlefield. Massive shadows emerged. Each was the size of a small moon. Their armored hulls covered in weapon towers. The human fleet registered the movement instantly in the Rocky Mountain Command Center. The human commander's expression did not change. His second-in-command glanced at him. "Doomsday class?" She asked quietly. He nodded once. "They're bringing out their gods." He said, "Time to show them ours." The Imperial superships activated their main weapons. Colossal barrels unfolded like mechanical jaws, each one glowing with the heat of a dying star. On alien screens, the targeting reticles locked onto Earth itself. The plan was brutal and simple. Destroy the planet entirely, even if it meant losing the battle. One gunner whispered to himself, "No one survives this." On the Emperor's palace screens, the weapons began to charge, bathing space in a blinding red glow. But the humans did not rush. Instead, one warship separated from their formation. It was larger than the rest, its hull darker than the void. Alien sensors tried to scan it, but every reading came back scrambled. The Admiral on the alien flagship watched in confusion. "What is that ship?" he demanded. No one had an answer. The human flagship's main weapon began to power up. There was no rumbling, no shaking decks, no glowing energy spheres. Only a strange distortion. The space around the weapon bent inward, as if the universe itself was being pulled into it. The alien gunners felt their scales crawl just looking at it. Then, without a countdown, without a warning, the human weapon fired. It was not a beam of light. It was a ripple, a silent wave that spread faster than thought. When it touched the first Doomsday ship, the massive vessel simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, nothing but empty space. The wave moved to the next, and the next, erasing them one after another in less than 6 seconds. The Empire's most powerful weapons, ships that had destroyed worlds, were gone on the alien flagship. The crew sat frozen, their eyes wide. One officer whispered, "That's not technology. That's something else." The Admiral clenched his fists. His pride crushed under the weight of what he had seen. He knew the battle was lost. But the Emperor's orders still burned in his mind. Fight until the last ship, the humans, however, did not give him the choice. Their fleet surged forward, weapons targeting the remaining command ships. Each strike was deliberate, disabling engines, shattering weapons. The Rocky Mountain commander gave his final order for the phase. "Leave a few alive," he said. "They need to carry the story home." Within minutes, the battle was over. The great Imperial Armada that had crossed half the galaxy to conquer Earth was nothing but drifting metal and broken pride. The few surviving ships floated helplessly, their weapons dead, their engines crippled. From the human flagship, a final message was sent. "You brought war to our home," the voice said. "Calm and steady, you will not bring it again." The surviving Imperial captains stared at their screens. Some wept openly, others sat in silence. None could answer, none could fight. They had seen a weapon erase their strongest ships in moments. They knew the galaxy would never see the Empire the same way again. And on the Imperial capital, the Emperor sat in his throne. His claws gripped the armrests so hard they cracked. The room around him was silent, the council too stunned to speak. In that silence, the Emperor understood something he would never say aloud. The humans had not just won. They had shown him that the Empire's age of dominance was over. The battlefield was silent now, not the silence of peace, but the silence that follows when one side is already gone. Shattered pieces of the Imperial fleet drifted through the void like broken teeth. Engines were dead, weapons offline and channels filled only with the low static of failure. The surviving alien captains huddled in their dim bridges, their crews staring at blank screens. Every instinct told them to flee, to run as far from Earth as their drives could carry them. On the Imperial flagship, the Admiral's claws tapped against the armrest. He wanted to order a retreat, but the weight of the Emperor's last command hung heavy in his mind. The Empire had never fled a battlefield. Not in its 1,000-year history. To retreat was worse than death. It was dishonor. It was exile, yet every moment they lingered here. The humans closed the noose tighter already. Alien sensors showed invisible walls of interference, locking them into this patch of space. Hyperdrives failed to respond. Navigation systems returned impossible coordinates. It was as though the very fabric of space around Earth had been reshaped. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, the human commander studied a holographic projection. Each red dot was an enemy ship, and each one was trapped. "Seal every exit vector," he ordered. "Make sure no one leaves without our permission." His voice was calm, but there was no softness in his eyes to him. This was not revenge. It was control. The human fleet moved again, their formation shifting into a wide crescent. From the alien perspective, it looked like a black wall of death slowly curving in around them. Some captains tried to slip through gaps, only to find human ships materializing in their path. One destroyer attempted to ram its way out. It never made contact. A beam of white light erased it mid-charge, leaving only empty space. Panic began to spread among the surviving crews. One young officer on a smaller frigate whispered, "Why don't they just kill us all now?" No one answered, but they all feared the same truth. The humans were letting them feel the weight of defeat on the flagship. The Admiral's second in command finally broke the silence. "Sir, we must surrender," he said, his voice low. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Surrender means we admit weakness," he replied. "It means the Emperor will strip us of our names, our homes, our bloodlines." The second in command met his gaze. "If we stay, we will not live long enough to be punished." Before the Admiral could respond, a new voice filled every Imperial channel. It was the same human voice as before, deep, calm, and carrying no hint of mercy. "You have one chance," the voice said. "Surrender your ships now, or there will be nothing left to send home." The message repeated once, then went silent. It was not a request, it was a final offer. Several alien captains obeyed instantly, shutting down their weapons and broadcasting signals of surrender. Others hesitated, torn between fear of the humans and fear of the Emperor. The Admiral clenched his jaw and gave no order. But hesitation was a mistake. The human fleet moved without warning, their weapons flashing in short, precise bursts. Every ship that had not surrendered was erased in seconds. There was no grand battle, no desperate last stand, only sudden, final silence when the light faded. The crescent formation of human warships slowly relaxed. The remaining alien vessels, barely a few dozen out of thousands, floated powerless. Their engines had been disabled with surgical strikes. Escape was impossible. Resistance pointless. The human commander nodded once. "Transmit the coordinates for their departure," he said. His second-in-command glanced at him, surprised. "You're letting them go?" she asked. He looked at the screen, watching the broken Imperial ships. "They'll go home and speak of what happened here," he said. "They'll speak of it in whispers for generations." Back on the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood. Before the central war table, the feed from the fleet had gone dark, replaced with a single transmission from the human flagship. It played for the entire High Council to hear. "You came to conquer." The human voice said, "You will never return." The message ended, and the chamber fell into deep, suffocating silence. The Emperor's claws dug into the table until thin cracks appeared in the crystal. Every member of the council could see it. The Empire had suffered not just defeat, but humiliation. A humiliation that would spread across the galaxy faster than any fleet, but the Emperor's pride forced the words through his teeth. "This changes nothing," he said. Yet even as he spoke, he knew it had already changed everything. Out in the cold void near Earth, the surviving Imperial ships were allowed to move slowly. They turned away from the blue planet that had stood against them. They left without firing another shot, without looking back, and as they limped into the darkness of space, they carried with them the weight of a truth the galaxy would soon learn: that the humans had not just won a battle. They had ended the idea that Earth could ever be taken. The Imperial survivors drifted through the deep void. Their ships were scarred, engines limping, and weapons dead. The journey home would take weeks, but the weight of the battle would follow them for the rest of their lives. In the quiet corridors of the remaining vessels, crews avoided each other's eyes. Some were ashamed. Others were still too shocked to feel anything at all. A few whispered in low voices about what they had seen: ships vanishing without explosions, weapons that bent space, and humans who fought like they had already seen the end of the battle before it began. The Admiral sat in the dim bridge of his crippled flagship. He stared at the empty chair where his second-in-command had been moments before the humans erased him. For the first time, the Admiral understood why the old legends called humans Deathworlders. It wasn't just their technology. It was the way they fought, without panic, without hesitation. As if every move had been decided years ago. He knew the reports he would have to deliver would crush the Emperor's pride. But lies would be useless. The truth would travel faster than any fleet. Far away, in the Rocky Mountain Command Center, the human commander watched the last Imperial ships fade into the darkness. Around him, officers reported that the skies above Earth were now clear. There was no cheering, no celebration, only quiet satisfaction. The commander knew this victory wasn't about today. It was about the years to come. The message they had sent to the Empire was only the first step. "Prepare the broadcast," he said. Technicians moved quickly, linking the human communications. Network 2 deep space relays within minutes. The signal was ready, a message that would reach every listening station in the galaxy. The commander stood before the camera, his face lit by the glow of tactical screens. When he spoke, his voice was calm, measured, and without pride. "This is Earth," he began. You came here with war in your hearts, and you leave with nothing. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek your worlds. But if you bring war to ours, it will end before it begins." He paused, letting the silence carry the weight of his words. "Remember this day," he finished, "and choose your paths." Carefully, the signal was sent. It traveled on beams of light, carried by satellites, boosted by hidden stations on the edges of human territory. By the time it reached the first neutral trading hubs, the words had already begun to spread by mouth. In the smoky back rooms of starports, captains spoke of the battle in hushed tones. They described alien warships, thousands strong, reduced to wreckage in minutes. They told of weapons no one could name, and of human ships that moved like shadows. Some dismissed it as propaganda. Others felt a chill and decided it was. Wiser not to test the story on the imperial capital, the emperor sat alone in his private chamber. The official reports from the surviving captains lay on the table before him. Every page told the same truth. The fleet had been annihilated. The humans had taken no losses. He read the words in silence, a T's claws curling tighter with each line. The High Council had already heard the human broadcast. The whispers in the palace halls had grown too loud to ignore. Some members of the council spoke openly of peace. Others suggested the Empire should turn its armies elsewhere. Far from Earth, the Emperor said nothing. But in his heart, he knew the galaxy's balance of power had shifted forever. Weeks later, the surviving Imperial ships limped into their home system. They carried no trophies, no conquered leaders, no spoils of war. Instead, they carried silence, the kind of silence that spreads faster than any declaration. Crowds gathered at the docks, expecting victory when they saw the battered state of the ships and the hollow faces of their crews. They understood no speeches were made that day. No parades were held beyond the Empire in the far corners of the galaxy. The message from Earth continued to spread. Smaller empires quietly erased invasion plans. Pirate fleets altered their routes to avoid human-controlled space. Even ancient warlords who feared nothing in centuries of battle chose to leave the blue planet alone. Earth's name, once spoken with indifference, was now said with caution. It was no longer just a homeworld, it was a warning in the deep void aboard the human flagship. The commander stood on the observation deck through the wide glass. He looked at the stars, the same stars the Imperial fleet had crossed to reach Earth. He knew there would be other threats in the future. He knew the galaxy would test humanity again, but this battle had proved something no enemy could ignore. Humans were ready, not because they loved war, but because